Molweni nonke, namkelekile kwakhona, eklasini yam yesiXhosa. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Xhosa pronunciation and phonology. It might be a bit of a long video. There's a lot of things I want to cover, and I hope that it can fill in some gaps, maybe even teach you things about your own language. And if you have any questions, just write them down below. So one of the first things I want to talk about is how many phonemes exist in the Xhosa language. A phoneme is a sound that helps you distinguish between words and meaning in a language. It's important to note that phonology and phonemes have nothing to do with the letters that you use in your language, how you spell words. They are really just the sounds that are used to differentiate between words and meanings. For example, in English, if we say something like van or ban, those are two different things, two different concepts. If we say something like Viking or biking, we definitely mean two different things. But in Spanish, the v and the b sound are interchangeable and don't change the meaning of words. So if you say vámonos or vámonos, you're still saying let's move on. Another example would be lead or read in English, having two different meanings. But in Japanese, the l and the r sound are again not different phonemes. So you can say rikai suru and likai suru, and you still mean understand. Now that we've cleared up what phonemes really are, it's interesting to note that Xhosa has a total of 68 phonemes, 68 different sounds that are meaningful in words. 58 of these are consonants, so pretty much all of them are consonants. That's quite astonishing, and it's common for languages of Southern Africa to have so many sounds. The Khoi and San languages have even more. I mean, they are languages spoken in Namibia and Botswana that have, I believe, over 80 different consonants, or close to 100 consonants. So how many phonemes does English have? Well, as a matter of fact, it has 45 phonemes, of which nearly half are vowel sounds. If you compare, for instance, Spanish has 30 phonemes in total, Italian has 29, Japanese has only 23 phonemes. The good news for us language learners is the fact that all these 68 phonemes in the Xhosa language are very cleverly coded in the Latin alphabet. So with certain letter combinations that we'll learn about shortly, we can know how to pronounce relatively well any Xhosa word we might come across. In this part of the video, I'm going to concentrate on prosody, which is basically what you do with your voice when you speak, so intonation and tone. Now, Xhosa is a tonal language like any other Bantu language. This means that words can change in their meaning depending on the tone that you use. Xhosa is not such a typically tonal language as is, say, Mandarin Chinese or Cantonese or Thai. So the fact that it uses tone is clear, but it doesn't often use tone to really differentiate between meaning. There's few cases where that is the case. So Xhosa only has two tones. It has a high tone and a low tone. Some people say there's a third tone, a falling tone, but I haven't seen any minimal pairs, so I haven't seen examples of two words where the one has a falling tone and the other doesn't, and that would justify classifying it as a third tone. So let's just stick to the idea of two tones, a high tone and a low tone. We're going to look at some examples where tone actually changes the meaning, but context is usually enough to understand what's meant. So this is not really something you have to try and master as a language learner, but more just be aware of it. So the only really important tone differentiation that you should really be aware of is the difference between saying you do something and he or she does something. So the pronoun that you add in front of the verb for you is u with a low tone. The pronoun you add in front of a verb for he or she is U, a high tone. For example, Uhlalaphi, where do you live? Uhlalaphi, where does he live? Where does she live? Uyavuya, you are glad. Uyavuya, he or she is glad. And now some less useful examples. Itanga means thigh. Itanga means pumpkin. Ulusu is apparently skin, where ulusu means intestine. Then I would like to move on to quite an important aspect of Xhosa pronunciation, and that is stress and vowel elongation. Now, in general, the second last syllable, the penultimate syllable of a word or a phrase, so it's not just every word in the sentence, but really the last word of a sentence or the last word of a phrase gets elongated, gets emphasized and stretched. So, for example, ndiyasebenza, I work. Ndiyahamba, I'm going. Ufuna iti okanye ikofu, do you want tea or coffee? Now notice the difference between the stress in these two phrases. Ibulukwe endinayo. Ndinayo ibulukwe. Ndinayo imali. I have money. Imali endinayo. The money that I have. Now, if you have a monosyllabic word at the end of a sentence, that's a word with only one syllable, which Xhosa generally doesn't allow, then the word before that kind of joins this word and it forms one phonological word, even though it's made up of two grammatical words. So, for example, the word uvelaphi, where do you come from? Akukhonto, it's all right, nothing's wrong, there's no problem. Ijonge kamnandi, ijonge kanhle. So just before I finish this video on prosody, I want to mention the fact that in spoken Xhosa, the last letter of words is often omitted. So you'll hear things like kulungile instead of kulungile, ndilambile, I'm hungry, instead of ndilambile, or ndithetha isiXhosa instead of ndithetha isiXhosa, enkosi instead of enkosi. So that's it for this part of the Xhosa Phonology series. The next video will be on spelling rules, so letter combinations and the sounds that they produce, so that you should be able to read more Xhosa words with confidence. Thanks for watching. Tune in for the next one. Salani kakuhle, sobonana kamsinyane. Sharp.